Max Crosby made some strong comments recently, and it's clear he's feeling a lot of frustration and anger. He's not happy with the current situation, and I get why. He's passionate about what he does. When asked about the rumors of Davante Adams requesting a trade, he had some interesting things to say. Crosby responded by saying, "It is what it is," noting that he's been dealing with challenges like this his whole career. He mentioned that Adams is his friend and he cares about him, but right now, Adams isn't healthy. Crosby made it clear, though, that the team's focus is on the Raiders and finding ways to win with the players who are currently available. I don't disagree with anything Crosby said. He also mentioned that Adams is really dealing with an injury, which was surprising to me. What stood out even more was Crosby talking about how he's faced similar situations throughout his career with the Raiders. It reminded me of the Antonio Brown saga a few years ago. Brown signed with the team, but didn't play a single game. We ended up releasing him before he ever stepped on the field. Then Derek Carr, who helped bring Davante Adams to the Raiders, got benched and was eventually let go. On top of that, we've had multiple head coaches fired mid-season, including John Gruden and Josh McDaniels. Crosby has seen it all, and it's frustrating for him, just as it is for us diehard Raiders fans. But despite all this chaos, Crosby's words aren't coming from a negative place. He's frustrated because he cares deeply, and that's something I respect about him. This week, Michael Lombardi, a former general manager, went on the Pat McAfee show and claimed that Crosby might be holding out and could be the next Raider to request a trade. Crosby fired back hard at these comments. He expressed his frustration at people spreading rumors about him, especially without knowing the facts. He was upset that people who aren't involved with the team are speaking for him, saying he should be on the sidelines even though he's recovering from a high ankle sprain. Crosby made it clear that he would do anything for his teammates and that the rumors about him being unhappy were far from the truth. He said he's fully committed to the Raiders and doesn't want to be anywhere else. "I've got the Raiders tatted on my body," Crosby said, making it clear that he's all in for this team. I love that he set the record straight. Despite all the challenges, Crosby's heart is with the Raiders. While the team may not have shown him they can be consistent winners yet, I don't think the Raiders are that far off. Hopefully, things turn around in the next couple of years. The Raiders are hoping to turn things around and find success as the season progresses, but there's one thing that stands out: Maxx Crosby's honesty. He's being brutally straightforward, and I respect that. It's exactly the kind of leadership the Raiders need right now. Another big issue for the team is the quarterback situation. While it's unlikely they'll find a new franchise QB this season, they do have two quarterbacks, but there are questions surrounding both of them. Raiders interim head coach Antonio Pierce was asked if he had decided on who the starting quarterback would be moving forward, and his response was pretty vague. When asked if Aiden O'Connell would start the next game, Pierce replied, "I don't have an answer for that one yet." So he's not committing to either O'Connell or Gardner Minshew as the starter against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And honestly, I think that's the right call. 2 weeks ago, when Gardner Minshew came out of the game and Aiden O'Connell stepped in, I thought Pierce should have made a clear decision to stick with one guy. But now, I'm not so sure. I'm leaning toward thinking it might be time to give O'Connell a shot, especially since the season isn't over yet. Minshew isn't a bad quarterback, but after recent performances, it's worth seeing if O'Connell can make a difference. The situation is unfortunate, though, because Minshew actually started the last game really well. If he hadn't thrown that pick six to Patrick Surtain and instead hit Brock Bowers for a touchdown, putting the Raiders up 17-3, he'd probably still be the starting quarterback right now. Raider Nation would be fired up after a big game. He would have had the momentum, the team would be rolling, and everything would feel different. But instead, the interception happened. His play fell apart, and he ended up getting benched. Now the Raiders have a tough decision to make. I personally think it makes sense to give Aiden O'Connell a chance. It's not that Minshew is a bad option, but we need to see another quarterback run this offense to really understand what's going wrong. I also think Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, might be part of the issue, but I want to see if O'Connell can run the offense better. I've heard a lot of talk about how Justin Fields was the problem, and that once Getsy had a true pocket passer, everything would click. But now we need to see if that theory holds up. Is Getsy really a top-tier offensive mind like Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan? Let's find out by giving O'Connell a chance. Minshew was also asked about the play that led to his interception, and I respect how he handled the question. He said they need to review the tape to see what went wrong and figure out how to fix it. It's clear Minshew wants to get better, but the Raiders need to decide if sticking with him is the best move for the rest of the season. The game doesn't usually come down to just one play, but when Gardner Minshew threw that pick six, it definitely shifted the momentum. After that, the Broncos went on a 31-0 run. Minshew admitted that the interception was on him and that it put the team in a bad spot. He took full responsibility for killing the momentum and not giving the team a real chance to compete in the game. When asked if he thought he was held on that play, Minshew didn't make any excuses. He said he couldn't put his finger on what exactly went wrong and mentioned that he thought the team started strong, but that his pick six swung the game in the Broncos' favor. He promised to get back to work and fix things moving forward. Later in the game, when Antonio Pierce made the switch to Aiden O'Connell in the third quarter, Minshew handled it professionally. He said he'd continue to help the team however he could and provide a positive presence on the sideline, regardless of his role. I appreciate Minshew taking ownership of his mistake. He knows that his interception was a huge factor in the Raiders' loss. But it wasn't just that play. The Raiders had 3 turnovers in this game and didn't force any on defense. Turnovers are crucial, and the Raiders couldn't get the ball back from the Broncos when it mattered. Denver even converted a 4th down on their first drive, which set the tone. Statistically, the Raiders were actually better than the Broncos in many areas. They were more efficient on 3rd downs, converting 7 of 15 compared to Denver's 3 of 12. They also had longer possession times and gained more yards per play. But turnovers were the difference. 2 of those turnovers led directly to Broncos points, a pick six and another interception that resulted in a touchdown. That's 14 points off turnovers. If you take away those 14 points, the final score could have been 18-20. Of course, it's not always that simple, but the Raiders gave the game away. This isn't the first time the Raiders have let a game slip away. It happened against the Chargers and the Panthers too. In all of these games, the Raiders were in control at some point, but let mental mistakes cost them. Against the Chargers, they dominated the first half, but failed to score touchdowns and gave away points with turnovers. Against the Broncos, they were in control early, but mistakes turned the game upside down. If the Raiders can clean up these mistakes, they still have a chance to salvage the season. The defense needs to start forcing turnovers, and the offense has to protect the ball better. Antonio Pierce also pointed out missed tackles as a big issue in this game. There were several times when Raiders defenders had a guy wrapped up but couldn't bring him down, letting the Broncos gain extra yards. These small mistakes add up and lead to big losses. The Raiders are not out of the race yet. If they had capitalized on the winnable games, they could realistically have 4 wins right now. Apart from the Panthers game, where they were clearly outplayed, the other losses were close and could have gone the other way with fewer mistakes. Looking ahead, the Raiders need to make a decision on their quarterback. Whether it's Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, I'll support whoever they choose, and I hope they can get a win against the Pittsburgh Steelers next week. Let me know what you think in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.